Magic words. Magic words, Lucas Steves.
I love words. Not so much reading them or writing them, but hearing them and saying them, and just the fact that they exist. As a kid, I used to spend hours listening to recordings of my favorite storytellers like Stuart McLean, Rod Beatty, and if my parents weren't home, George Carlin and Bill Hicks. I would sit there for hours listening to these people describe these imaginary people having these imaginary adventures, and if I concentrated, I could have the most vivid hallucinations as though I was there with them, all without any drugs at all. To this very day, the fact that I can stand here in front of you, vibrating my vocal cords and flapping my lips, and by doing that, take a thought out of my head and transmit it through thin air into yours, blows my mind. See, words have an interesting power. They've given people the ability to transfer complex ideas and information from person to person and generation to generation through simple conversations. The ability to pass that information has given us the ability to create the world in which we live today. It is magic. But it's a uniquely human experience. So if you look around the world at all the millions of different animals on the planet, none of them have mastered vocalization in the way human beings have. I mean, sure, some animals have rudimentary vocalizations. Dogs bark, cats meow, whales sing, but none of them have got the subtlety and nuance as humans do. Sure, some have come close. Giraffes, for example. Did you know that giraffes have a particular sound that they make to warn other giraffes when there are bees in the area and they should leave immediately? It's true. When I heard that, I got a little bit jealous. I thought giraffes, they're already tall and majestic. Now they have this fancy sound they make. Humans should have a sound for that. Then it occurred to me, we do have a sound for that. It sounds like this. There are bees in the area and we should leave immediately. It's subtle, but it gets the job done. I like to think we're as advanced as giraffes. Chimpanzees have a sound that they make to warn other chimpanzees of an approaching lion. It sounds like this. Ah! Well, what sort of sound do you make when the lion's approaching? See, in addition to their power to share complicated ideas and information, words also have the power to implant a mental image into somebody's mind. And depending on the order you use the words, you have the power to control that mental image. It's fascinating. Let's do a little experiment. Is anyone up for a little game? Right on. This is going to take some imagination. For those less creative out there, just do your best. I want you to close your eyes and imagine for a second a dog that is purple and has two heads. Okay, you can open your eyes again. How many people initially imagined a purple two-headed dog? No one, of course not. Because when I say imagine a dog, your memory goes through every image of every dog you've ever seen and comes up with a picture. And then I throw a wrench in it by describing the dog. But if I said, imagine a pink one-legged cow, immediately you think of a cow that is pink and has one leg. It's fascinating what happens when you move the description in front of the noun. It's magic. See, some words conjure up a mental image that's very accurate to what they're trying to describe, while other words conjure up a mental image that is nothing at all like what they're trying to describe. Like if I say apple tree, you probably think of a tree covered in apples. That is accurate. If I say grapevine, you think of a vine covered in grapes. That is accurate. But if I say dog leg, you probably don't immediately think of a golf course fairway or a railway changing direction. But that's often what it refers to. It's bizarre. Anyway, it became a problem a couple weeks ago when I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. He was telling me about salmon ladders. I heard the phrase salmon ladder and I got a particular mental image. I thought of a salmon trying to climb a ladder. I thought, well, that's bizarre. Salmon don't have feet, or hands, or the need for a ladder at all. What are they doing? Painting walls and changing light bulbs in the ocean? I don't think so. Then he describes to me a salmon ladder as actually a series of pools around a hydroelectric dam that allow the salmon to get upstream to spawn. I thought, well, surely there's a better way to describe that. Like a series of pools around a hydroelectric dam will allow the fish to get upstream to spawn. Maybe I'm crazy. But about a week later, I was driving along in my truck listening to CBC and a radio program came on. They said salmon ladders across the country were being replaced by fish cannons. When I heard the phrase fish cannon, I got a mental image similar to the one you just had. I thought of a cannon with a fish flying out the end. I thought, now that is ridiculous. So I got on the internet, I did a little bit of research. I found out that's exactly what it is. It's a cannon with fish flying out the end of it. It's crazy. So apparently some environmentalists realized fish were being injured as they used salmon ladders. I'm not surprised. So they thought the best way to prevent injuries was to shoot them out of a cannon! I don't know about you, but when I think of preventing injuries, cannons are rarely involved. You see, the point is, words have a lot of power. When they're used correctly, by the right people in the right context with the right intentions, they have the power to bring people together. They can create families and businesses, relationships, and all kinds of wonderful things. In fact, the entire world that we live in today. But when they're used in the wrong order or the wrong context by the wrong people with the wrong intentions, they have the power to tear apart the fabric of the very society they helped create. So the next time you open your mouth to speak or put your pen to a paper to write, I want you to think carefully about the words you use. Because if you don't, you might end up shooting a fish out of a cannon trying to save its life.